The views expressed on the following broadcasts do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guest. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship. And now, here are your co-hosts, Bruce H. and the Monty Man.
Well, welcome aboard, you scallywags, to the Good Ship Recovery. Bruce H. is here. We also have a wonderful new co-host who's going to be with us for a few weeks. We don't know how long. Melissa T. Hey, Melissa.
Hi, everyone.
It's good to see your smiling face.
It's great to be here.
You look very chipper.
Thank you.
And you've never done this before.
I have not.
So are you excited?
I'm nervous, excited. Yeah, I've been looking forward to it.
Well, this is great. Well, you know, here's the deal. One of the reasons that we've asked you to come on board with us is because we need a voice of reason. And when two guys get together, it's not real reasonable sometimes.
How true.
Right, Bruce?
How true.
I thought that men thought that they were the voice of reason and that women were the voice of more like emotions and feelings.
We think that.
And yet you've been married long enough to know.
Yeah, to know better.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's the thing. Guys think logically, which can get them into trouble, because A plus B does equal C, but not always the way we want it to. Women do think emotionally, which can save our bacon because they can see past our stupid, well, that just makes sense, to something that really makes sense. You know, people think, well, thinking emotionally means that you're not being smart. So that's not true at all.
Well, I just thought we needed a woman's input.
We do. That's what I'm talking about. Lord have mercy. Bruce, wake up. All right. So Christy, the studio cat, is here. Nala, the studio dog, is here. The coffee pot is here. And we are in our third week of December. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, blah, 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 to everybody. We are going to be talking about the ninth step. We're closing out the ninth step today. Probably, well, I'm going to say that, but next week we're going to be talking about the ninth step promises. But we're kind of officially closing out the ninth step today, but we're just going to kind of we're going to integrate the ninth step promises with our special Christmas show. I thought that would be a good matchup. And by the way, those are the ninth step promises. Those are not the promises. I just wish they would take those things off the wall and put the ninth step promises and not the promises, because so many people think those promises are going to come true on day 3 when I'm sitting in the rooms.
I'm not signing anything.
You're not So we may direct amends to such people. What such people? Who are those such people, Bruce?
Oh, boy. A lot of people.
A lot of people.
No, but, you know, people we've harmed and that we've done things with our attitude and our conduct.
Yeah.
Our wives, our friends, you know, people that are involved with that.
The community.
Mm-hmm. The community.
The store owner. Our neighbor.
Our boss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're going to be talking about some of those different kinds because they're laid out in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. You got the little woman, you got the criminal thing, you got the financiers, you got all that stuff. I'll tell you something that's really wonderful. I'm so glad people aren't knocking on my door anymore going, you know that bounce check we've been after you for the last 3 years? Well, it's now up to $700 in fees. I'm so glad that's over. I am telling you what. But we're going to be talking about made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Once again, let's reiterate, the others does not include you.
True.
Get that out of your mind right now. Overly opinionated? Yes, but it's really good when I'm right. We're going to have a lot of fun, Melissa. We really are. All right. We're going to get our first 2 sponsors out of the way, and we're going to come back with Recovery News and Focus. And Cecil's got some special trivia for us when we return. Don't go away.
As men and women who have recovered from utterly hopeless states of addiction ourselves, We know all too well what it is like to battle addiction daily. We are Origins Recovery Centers. Here at Origins, we have taken that which we have learned along the way, excised anything unhelpful and unnecessary, infused it with the latest in medical research and innovative therapeutic methods, and created what we know to be the absolute gold standard in substance abuse treatment. And Origins provides the most preeminent aftercare and relapse prevention program available in the United States. For a free, confidential clinical assessment, call toll-free 888-843-8935. That's 888-843-8935. Origins, delivering real solutions for real families.
Choosing a facility for drug and alcohol rehabilitation treatment is an important decision. It should be a place where you will be comfortable and supported, and one that is staffed, equipped, and programmed for successful outcomes. Introducing Free by the Sea, located on 5 acres of secluded waterfront property along the southwest Washington coast, away from big city distractions. The campus is a renovated resort property, so the grounds are lush and beautiful. Above all, the reason to choose Free by the Sea is the success rate of our counselors and staff in helping clients to transition to a life free from addiction. For more information or to schedule a visit, call 800-272-9199 or visit our website at www.freebythesea.com. Free by the Sea, charting a new course to recovery.
And now, with a little sugar on top and a ho-ho-ho, here's Monty Man's Recovery News in Focus.
That's right. It's time for Recovery News in Focus, the most popular newsworthy recovery portion of this show. Maybe not of the world, but of this show. Okay, here is Recovery News in Focus. Arnif, R-N-I-F. Arnif story number 1. Is Google getting in on the recovery circuit? Well, in a crazy but not completely surprisingly turn of events, it has been reported that Google is developing an app for your smartphone and tablet that will be able to detect if your dopamine levels are low. Are you serious?
Is that true?
Yes, that's true. Once you determine that your pleasure center of your brain is lacking, the app will offer you several suggestions on how to remedy the problem. Everything from a list of local restaurants that serve healthy food to gyms and workout stations, and even a list of 12-step support groups that can talk you down from a possible relapse. Reports claim that Google will have the app ready for free download by September 2015.
Oh, how would it possibly recognize your dopamine level?
Well, the only thing I'm thinking is I know that on the Samsung Galaxy 5, for instance, you can take your pulse, you can take your blood pressure, it'll tell you what your sugar levels are by doing a scan of your finger. And I don't know how they do that. I don't know how accurate it is. And that's my concern. For diabetics, my sugar level is really low. Candy bar time, and your phone's like low on batteries. So, I don't know. So, well, that'll be an interesting thing to see happen.
Yeah, I was flabbergasted.
I'm telling you, man. Well, listen. Here's Arnif story number 2. Don't ask what's in your wallet. Rather, ask what's in your car. An investigation into nationally known car dealerships has uncovered some alarming statistics from 2013, which the unnamed dealerships are accused of covering up. 2 of the most well-known car manufacturers own dealerships which allegedly seem to be dealing more than automobiles. In 2013, it appears that billions of dollars of controlled substances have been confiscated from these dealerships, dating all the way back to 2003. Reports from a Detroit private investigation firm claim that dealerships and automobile manufacturers have been trafficking narcotics for decades, but cover-ups are always in fashion due to the enormous fees paid by the automobile industry to keep their dirty little secrets.
I believe that one.
Yeah, you bet.
You bet.
You meant someone's in your car. Can you imagine getting pulled over for a routine
Now,
traffic
why doesn't that surprise me?
See, so when you get pulled over and the dog sniffs your car and they find cocaine in the door jamb, and you go, "It's not mine. You're telling the truth."
For once.
I had a Buick
Yeah,
that I, telling you, smelled of drugs.
really.
And if there was a dog that was going to come along, I bet you they'd have tore my car up. But I could smell it.
Wow. That's true.
It's like when you first get sober and every time you see a cop, you're like, am I going to get pulled over for something? And
I know.
There you go.
you're not doing anything wrong anymore, but you still,
There you go.
the feeling hangs on.
Oh, Lord have mercy. And story number 3. Our NIF, story number 3. Eggnog, anyone? It was Christmas, and a county judge was in a merry mood as he asked the prisoner, "What are you charged with?" "Doing my Christmas shopping early," replied the defendant. "Well, that's no offense," said the judge. "How early were you doing the shopping?" "Well, before the store opened." "So you broke into the store?" "No, the front door was unlocked, so I simply walked in thinking it was open. A sign above the shopping carts read, 'Take your pick of the best products in town.' So I did, and walked out. And now I found myself standing before your honor." "Well," said the judge, "I can't sentence you for following directions." The judge dismissed the charges and released the very excited shoplifter. It was discovered later that the judge had been nipping on the eggnog provided by the district attorney's office earlier that day. Why does that not surprise me? Well, I don't know. Oh, Lord have mercy. All right. Well, here it is. Recovery News and Focus for this week. Zippity doo dah. Everybody sing.
La, 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 la.
All right, Cecil, are you there? Cecil?
Yes, I'm here, Monty Man. Do you know one of the reasons I just love December?
No, Cecil, I don't.
Brucey, do you know one of the reasons I just love December?
No, I don't, Cecil.
Well, you two lugs simply don't have a clue. One of the biggest reasons
You call me a
I
log?
love December is because I always meet someone brand new
okay.
that I just know I will love. And I see that we have someone who fits that very category.
Ooh.
Melissa, is it?
It is. How are you?
Well, welcome, Melissa. I hope you can put up with these two guys long enough to make it through the show.
Well, I've had to put up with him before, so.
And I think Melissa's going to do just fine, Cecil. I do. I really do.
Well, I don't know, but we better get going with Christmas trivia.
Yes.
And if I know anything, I know that Melissa is going to mop up the studio with Brucey.
Oh, do I get to play today?
Yes, you do. You do get to play. So, all right.
Boy.
Do you mind, Bruce?
I'm looking forward to following your lead.
I'm pretty good at games.
I've only got one right in 2 weeks.
So here we go. Take 12 Recovery Radio Christmas Trivia.
Yes, indeedy. Bruce's favorite game. All right. Thank you, Cecil, for welcoming Melissa.
This has got to be God's way of teaching me patience.
It is. It is. Well, you know, Cecil took a little sabbatical for a while, and you actually said you were beginning to miss Cecil.
I miss Cecil, but I don't miss trivia.
No, you don't miss trivia. All right. We have 3 questions and a bonus. All right. The Germans made the first artificial Christmas trees out of what? Here are your 3 choices. The Germans made the first artificial Christmas trees out of, number 1, dried goose feathers, number 2, paper mache, or 3, rocks.
Paper mache.
Paper mache, Melissa, what do you say?
Oh,
Goose feathers, paper mache, or rocks?
I wanted to say paper mache, but Bruce's record's pretty.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go with. I'm gonna have to go with goose feathers.
Oh. Well, Melissa, you are right, and so you get a bell. It is dried goose feathers. All right.
Wow.
Trivia question number 2. The traditional 3 colors of Christmas are green, red, and what?
Gold.
Here are your choices. Gold, silver, or bronze.
I'm going with gold.
Oh, yeah, you would, right?
Sorry.
Yes. Melissa is absolutely correct. Green has long been a symbol of life and rebirth. Red symbolizes the blood of Christ, and gold represents light as well as wealth and royalty. Yes, indeedy. All right, question number 3, Bruce. I'm going to ask you first this time. Though many people of faith dislike the X in Xmas, the true meaning of the X is, and here are your 3 choices: an attempt to X out Christ from Christmas.
That means a hug.
Please, a hug. Choice number 2, an abbreviation for the Christ child, or choice number 3, a symbol of the early Orthodox Church.
What was the first one?
An attempt to X out Christ from Christmas. Christ from Christmas, abbreviation of the Christ child, or a symbol of the Orthodox Church.
I haven't a clue.
Okay, Melissa, go ahead. Go for it.
Well, I'm going to say the symbol of the Christ child because it kind of looks like a very stick figure-y nativity creche.
Okay. Well, that's not the reason, but that is the correct answer. The letter X in Greek is the first letter of the word Christ. And Xmas has been used as an abbreviation for Christmas since the mid-1500s. So when you get all your feathers in an uproar, all you born-again Christians out there, because you think they're Xing Christ out, that may be the motivation for some people, but it's got its history and it's an abbreviation for Christ. X is Christ. I-X-O-Y-E, Ichthus? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you betcha. What do we have that? Oh, music. All right. Okay, so Melissa gets that little music ditty because she got that right. Oh, and a bell. All right. All right, here's the bonus question. Are you ready, Brucey?
Hey.
Okay. The true love mentioned in the song 12 Days of Christmas, my true love gave to me, right, does not refer to a romantic couple, but the Catholic Church's code for God. The person who receives the gifts represents someone who has accepted that code. For example, the partridge in a pear tree represents Christ. The 2 turtle doves represents what? Here are your choices: Adam and Eve, the Old and New Testament, or heaven and earth.
Heaven and earth.
I'm going to go with the Testaments.
The Old and New Testament? Wow, she's batting 1,000 here. Melissa is correct. Yes. Very good. Mel.
The only reason she did so well is because she just didn't pick what I picked.
It was process of elimination.
Process of elimination.
Well, actually, I called her up last night and gave her the answers. No, I'm just kidding. So that does it for Take 12 Christmas Trivia for this week. All right. Let's hear from Serenity Springs. When we come back, let's talk about the different types of amends found in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous when we return. Serenity Springs Recovery Center, located on the beautiful east coast of Florida. A unique facility that is committed to providing exceptional individual care in small group settings while utilizing their experienced and dedicated clinical and support staff of licensed therapists and doctors. Visit their website, serenityspringsrecovery.com, or call 386-423-4540. Serenity Springs, making a life-changing investment into your recovery. All righty, welcome back, my friends. All right, step 9. We've been doing steps 8 and 9. We kind of been doing them together. We've moved now quite a ways into step 9, and this is the process of making amends to such people whenever to do so would injure them or others. The amends process is so important because it's such a huge piece, not only in our healing, but people deserve this. We have wronged them. We have slighted them. We have just been real buttheads. And we need to do our best to right the wrong, if at all possible. Sometimes it's not possible. But it's the key here is our willingness to do that in step 8, and then doing our best to go forward and actually doing that. Okay, so I'm gonna read a little bit here. There are some examples of who we may need to make amends to in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. One of them, and I'm gonna skim over these real fast, and we're gonna talk about it. One of them is creditors. On page 78 of the Big Book, Into Action, it says, most alcoholics owe money. We do not dodge our creditors. Another one is criminal offenses. It says, perhaps we have committed a criminal offense, which might land us in jail if it were known to the authorities. And then yet another one is the spouse. Whatever the situation, we usually have to do something about this. If we are sure our wife does not know, should we tell her? We're going to talk about that question that's there. Not always, we think, if she knows in a general way that we have been wild, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's 3 people that or institutions that we might be owing an amends to. Once again, we don't make an amends to clear up our side of the street so we can feel good about ourselves. That is a result of doing that, but that should not be our motivation. True, Bruce?
True.
What is our motivation?
Our motivation is, here, let me read it. Okay.
There goes the dog and cat.
It says, at the moment we are trying to put our lives in order. But that is not an end in itself. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and to the people about us. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to rectify our lives, and we're trying to learn to ask God for help where we can start putting others before ourselves. It's an altruistic movement we're talking about. And that's hard for us to do if you've done this inventory and you've looked at yourself and you've seen just how selfish you are.
Yeah.
To look and to see that, and if you see that, then you know you're going to need help with that process. So the 12 steps are a way to do that and learn to rely upon Him.
Melissa, let me ask you, have you heard within the 12-step meetings, have you ever heard anybody suggest that it's not about the person you're making amends to, it's about making you feel better for what you've done?
I have heard that much more often than, what Bruce was just reading out of the Big Book.
Right.
And I think even, you don't mean to. I mean, you sit down with a sponsor and you go through these steps and you try to be thorough and you try to do them again later on even and be even more thorough. But you do absorb the culture of the meetings that you go to and, people talking, the slang of it and just
right.
general thought that people are putting out there, the 90 meetings in 90 days and things like that. So, I mean, I'm being challenged right now as I'm listening to these readings and really trying to figure out, where I've been coming from with it.
Sure.
Yeah. I think I'm about to learn some stuff here today too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you've hit on a key, a very important key, is that when we go to meetings, what kind of influence does that have upon us and the things we're hearing?
Right. Especially, I mean, they say meeting makers make it. And I do. I go to a lot of 12-step meetings.
Right.
And it's a vital part of my recovery and a great place to be of service to, change my perspective and all that. But you hear things over and over, and they start to be a part of your brain.
Well, they tickle the ear because they sound good.
They sound really good.
So I ask myself a question every meeting I go to.
What's that?
What am I relying upon today? Say, am I relying upon the meeting, or am I relying upon God? And you know something, Melissa? A lot of the times I'm relying upon the meeting. I'm sure am.
Yeah, we kind of get in that mode of, man, I got to get to a meeting.
It's not a bad thing, Melissa. The fellowship is good, but I think God shows us how to have the kind of fellowship we've always craved. And it's really hard to learn to put Him first instead of the people, places, and things about us.
It is.
Yeah, it's you, and usually I'm depending upon myself, not the meeting. Yeah. How about that?
Yeah, we're only laughing because we recognize that.
Because we've all done that. Yeah.
That was good.
I'm like, I'm going to go to my meeting. I'm going to be a maximum of service to God and my fellows. Yeah. And then I see somebody's car in the parking lot, and I go, I'm not going in there.
Yeah. All right, I like to tell God, okay, I'm going in here, so come join me. Yeah. I'm asking Him to join me in my plans.
Yeah, Lord, you're welcome to come with me.
Yeah.
We welcome you in this place. I always love that. We welcome you. Really? I was already here. I was here before you got here, sucker. I got up earlier than you. I'm God.
Oh gosh.
But we do, and we do talk about a lot of times on this show. We talk about meeting dependent versus God dependent. We've even gone so far, Melissa, has talked about folks who have been step dependent and not God dependent. Give you a good example in the area of people of faith. Are we relying on our prayers, or are we relying on the one we're praying to? Are we relying on the steps, or are we relying on the one the steps are showing us a need for? And you hear it all the time. Well, what step you working? What step you on? I'm going through this, this, and this. Well, what step you on? My question is, how's your relationship with your higher power? How's your relationship with your Creator? How's your relationship with God? Mm-hmm.
So I think the steps are vital.
Yes.
And I think they have a direct purpose. But I think Monty's right. I think we can, if we're dependent upon the steps and our ability to carry them out, to apply them in all of our practical lives, in all of our affairs, who are we really relying upon? Ourselves, and our ability to do so. See, it's right back to us. It really, really is. To turn that around and to learn. And the step 9 is about learning to put ourselves in His hands. And it starts off in 8, learning to do that. And it says, because of the fear inventory that we took, and we don't see much of that on here. And it tells us very plainly there that is the minute that we put ourselves in His hands, the fear starts to dissipate. It starts to go away. It's because of that, not because it's an inch thick and we learn to step through it, not because we hold somebody's hand and we go forward. It's because we put ourselves in God's hands and the fear started to go away. See, that's the first step in learning to use Him. And now we've got this other. How in the world, Melissa, am I going to make a proper amends and talk to my wife about an affair that I've had? And she wants to know all these details, and I'm going to hurt her more, or I'm going to hurt this other person. How am I going to do that?
Right, you need that wisdom from God.
Mm-hmm. And how am I going to have the strength to go forward when I really don't want to do this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so a lot of people stumble over themselves in this step because they haven't been willing to consider God.
That's right.
You know, they're saying, well, you know, God's group of drunks or a good orderly direction or a tree stump or whatever. And I'm not criticizing anything in the beginning. When we start out, you know, you can start anywhere. But the chapter We Agnostics explains very clearly you can't stay there. And what we have is because of people's either past experience or maybe they're parroting what somebody else said, or they haven't worked a 4-step around God. They don't want anything to do with them, and then they try and work the rest of these steps without His guidance, and we lose them. And I think that's one of the major reasons why we see a lot of people stopping at step 4, for instance. Because step 3 is so distasteful to them that they won't even consider working step 4 around God. So they just stop, you know. And it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and hardly ever 3. And I'm not saying that is always the case, but I think it's more the case than what really the founders intended when this thing was put together.
Yeah. There's a piece in the book where it gives really good instructions on what we're supposed to do in those kind of situations. But I'm going to bypass all that because we pretty much know what we're talking about here and how we can harm people and actually bring up hurt in our with our own wives, you know, and our husbands. So it says, after consulting with his wife and partner, he came to the conclusion that he'd better take those drastic risks and than to stand before his Creator guilty of such rumors, slander. So we had to take these risks, so we had to do something. You know what I mean? We had to go out and make these amends and talk to her. He saw that he had to place the outcome in God's hands.
And that's hard to do because we're worried about the outcome, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. But when you go to Him and you actually ask Him for guidance and direction and the ability to do this thing right, then you're able to move forward. And I'll give you an example I talked about a couple of weeks ago. I have an amends to make, and it's out of sexual amends. And I know that if I go and do this, it's going to cause hurt.
Oh.
I know it in my own heart that it's going to, and I also know that the longer I stay away from this, the more I'll justify and rationalize that it don't have to be done. Look, it's been a year or 2 years, whatever the case might be. So I pray to God and ask God to hold me in willingness that if the door ever opens, that He'll give me the strength to step through it. But I don't make the amends at this time because I know that it would
cause
hurt.
harm.
It would
Right.
bring up injuries. It cause even problems for the children.
Wow.
Because of the way this person might react with their children. And I know these things because it's my situation. And I've talked to God about that. But I ask Him to hold me in readiness. I'm more than willing to make the amends. But I don't want to go out and hurt people.
Right.
I don't want to bring up, you know.
Yeah.
And if Bruce was making his decision about this amends based on popular belief in the meeting rooms,
Right.
or even maybe on the advice of a sponsor, which a sponsor is so helpful, but he knows the situation and he's had God speaking directly to his heart and giving him wisdom. But if he just charged forward, it would make him feel better. He could tell himself, I need to do this right away.
Exactly.
Because I need to feel better, because if I don't feel better, then I could be,
I could relapse if I don't feel different.
right. So it
exactly.
is. It's
Medicating. It's medicating again, isn't
And
it? It's a form of medicating.
So what are you doing, Melissa? You're actually building and learning to walk with God. Because, see, you're going to start trusting Him in all your affairs. And it's not that I don't apply the principles in all my affairs. but I'm getting guidance.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing. There's so many of us, like you know it, Melissa, we go to church and we do these things, but how many of us are being discipled? How many of us are actually learning to walk with God? Learning to rely upon Him.
Right. It is tricky trying to walk out this program, these 12 steps and these principles as a Christian, and the church piece and being a believer is so important, and yet there's no way that I know God doesn't want me to give up AA or that kind of service or anything.
Right.
So bringing them together, that can be a challenge.
It is a challenge, isn't it?
It's an adventure.
It is. We are kind of an odd animal. We're kind of an odd group. People of faith and people in the rooms. Melissa, you said something the other day. Somebody mentioned that they had gone to, what was it? Something up in Portland that had to do with, mind control and...
Okay, I remember.
Yeah, what is
like
that?
A seminar. Somebody went to a seminar.
What was that called? What that philosophy is? I can't think of it.
She said something about New Age.
Right.
I don't think she said what it was.
Right. But you said something to me. You said that now that kind of stuff it doesn't like knock you out, right? I mean, it isn't. You're accepting of her, even though you may think, how's that going to work for you? But you still can love her, and you can still be her friend and welcome her in the meetings as a believer in Christ, being Christ-like, right? That's kind of how I interpreted what you were saying. You weren't going, well, I would never thought that of you,
Yeah, I'm shocked at how non-judgmental I can be in meetings of people with the belief that they choose for their higher power, the path that they're following, because I can be so judgmental about everything, everywhere, all the time, that, it's just not there. It's just, and I don't think it's me watering down because I frequently go to meetings or whatever, but I think it's just that God gives me that grace, and I don't feel like I immediately have to pull everyone aside if they share about a new age or something higher power and tell them immediately. But I hope that He gives me the courage, if someone approaches me about who my God is, that I'm brave enough to tell them about Jesus,
right,
and how it's been applied in the steps. So I've had just a couple of opportunities, and I cherish them. I look for. I wish that would happen. That's my prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think you've got it absolutely right. You're a light in the darkness. And what we're supposed to do is learn to live our lives for people will come and ask us. See, we live it in such a way that
it's
attracting them. It's
yeah.
attracting.
Okay, so let's talk about something real quick here. Okay, creditors. Sometimes we owe money. Criminal offenses, we may be facing jail time. If we share something, even a little tiny bit with somebody, whether it's our spouse or an employer or whatever, there may be unpleasant consequences. And here it says there's a prayer. Again, there's a prayer directive. There's prayer directives in each step. It says we ask. Who do we ask? We're asking God. Mm-hmm. We ask that we be given strength and direction to do the right thing, no matter what the personal consequences may be. So we say, yeah, but, or this could happen, or what if, but it says no matter what the personal consequence may be. But it says we ask to be given strength. Well, we can't be given something if we already have it. So obviously we don't already have it. Right? So we're asking God to give us His strength to do this. Because this can be spooky stuff. I will never forget going to court, years of being in the fellowship and applying the program. Things were going hunky-dory. My wife and I, we were facilitators of a ministry called Steps to Victory. It was the only faith-based 12-step fellowship at the time that was recognized by the Department of Corrections in Linn County. and a charge reappeared. That was dismissed, but we had a new deputy district attorney, and he decided to reinstate this charge. And we're like, what? Well, this is a no-brainer. This is they'll just let this go, right? And I could have ducked this, but I knew that it's going to follow me. I better just fess up, just go take care of this. So I went to court and did not know this was going to happen. Ended up in chains and went to prison for 6 months. And I often wonder, if I knew that was going to happen, would I have ducked that? I don't know. Because I was convinced that wasn't going to happen.
Right.
Would I have? And I had been sober for a few years, but not a whole lot. Was I far enough along in this process to own up and to do what I needed to do? We didn't have kids. So it wasn't, taking their dad away or anything like that. Or would I have done what I'd always done when I knew what the consequences would be and not followed through? I often wonder about that. I really do. But, the decision was made for me.
Right.
I have several things that I think I could probably go to store owners or to law enforcement agencies and say I've done this or done that.
Uh-huh.
And I haven't done it, and I don't see myself doing it. Now, for any listeners who's listening to me, you can think on how you want about this. But what I've done is that I've done some time, and I know that the
quite
system.
A bit of time.
Yeah, I know the system is pretty well, and they understand I wasn't caught for anything. I mean, for everything, and they allowed me out back into society. And what I've done is I've lived my life differently, and this amount of direct amends I'm supposed to be making,
right?
And I think I've made my life right with God, and I've repented, and my offense I think is against Him. Ultimately, and so I've done that, and I've cleared those things up. But I think you have to be comfortable with them. I'm not going to do that and risk that. How can I'd like to be of service out here. I guess I could be of service in there. I guess it could be a justification. If I say, listeners, be careful what you're hearing from me.
Right, because you've got to live with your decision, and so what I'm hearing you say is that you have a peace about that. It's not something that's gnawing at you. I think we know, especially once we have asked God into our lives, His Spirit comes to live within us. And I think when we're not fessing up and we're not doing the right thing, I think when we really get down to it, we know whether we are or we aren't, don't we? I
know a man that went to court and turned himself in front of the judge. And, I mean, he took a heck of a risk. And, that was him, and he was willing to do that. And I think that's something you really have to be able to have a sponsor and talk over with them. And is there other things that we can do?
Right.
If I wanted to, I could go to some of these store owners and try to do that if I was in a position where I could even work for them. You know what I mean?
Sure. Mm-hmm. Having said that, Melissa, have you ever heard anybody say, well, I make a living amends to the store that I ripped off by taking the shopping carts back from the parking lot? You ever heard that one?
I haven't heard that one. I just don't know how anybody would do this step in particular without a sponsor. I've had more than one sponsor that have gone, quite a bit down the road of recovery with me at different times. And I just don't know how I would have approached each of especially the big stuff, if I wouldn't have had that sponsor. So many times I I was just off the mark. Or I was being hard on myself, or I wasn't being holding myself responsible enough, or I was going to say that I was just going to say it wrong. The timing was going to be bad,
right.
And God can give us wisdom and stuff, but especially your first time through the steps, please, I hope your sponsor's walking you through this as it says in the book.
You bet. You bet. I think that we have to have somebody to talk about these things and bounce them off with. And I hope it's somebody that we built relationships with that is able to say the hard things and allow us to talk about it.
Right. Because if they've walked with us step 1 through step 8, then by step 9, they know if we are being honest with ourselves, with them about the situation. They've heard about the situation when it came up in steps 4 and 5 and 8, and they can give us real advice from actually having heard it. Just if you had one hard amends to make and you managed to actually wait until step 9 to do it, not getting sponsored or anything, and then you threw it out to the group at a meeting or two.
Yeah.
Boy, they don't have any background. A lot of them don't know you. You don't know where they're coming from or who their higher power is or what they believe. It just would be kind of a gamble, especially when you're thinking about dealing with other people. This amends is going to affect a human being, and you don't get to make amends over and over and over. I don't think, like to your mom and dad say, or to your husband or wife or whatever. I mean, you just don't get to every year go to them and say, now I need to do it again because I didn't do it right last year.
Yeah.
That's people's feelings. That's people's...
Yeah, because you're stirring it all up again.
Right.
And one of the things that my sponsor really guided me through when I was irresponsible with somebody's car. I crashed it. And I wanted to go to them and, say all this stuff. I had written it all out. And he looked at it and he goes, whoa. He said, it's been some time here, but if you go to that person and say, the day that you loaned me your car and it was on your birthday and you were already, trying to have a good day and I kind of ruined it. And I took your car and I drank while I was borrowing it, and then I crashed it into a tree and I totaled it. And you remember that? And he said, "What you're going to do is the guy's going to say, you know what? I do remember that, and you know what? I am really angry again." Instead of saying, "Look, I want to refer to the time I was irresponsible with your automobile when you loaned it to me, and I need to make amends for that." He said, "You don't have to go into this." You know what I'm saying? But see, without his guidance, I would have messed that up big time. And as it ended up, it worked really well. What about people that don't want to hear it and they don't receive your amends? What do you do with that, Melissa? Why don't you tackle that first?
Boy, I don't think that I had that experience yet personally. I think that we have to respect them, I've had people say that they didn't really remember that. Hey, I did, I'm so sorry. I need to make an amends. I wanted to own my part for it. Oh, I don't even remember that. Was that what really happened?
Right,
and it's
right.
like, well, I respect you, and I just have to let you know what the truth is, and I just wanted to be honest and let you know. I think that all you can do is respect their wishes, and if they don't want to talk about it, then you have to stop talking about it, but you have to at least give them a chance. We can't assume what people's reactions are going to be. I like to do that. I like to have conversations in the mirror in my bathroom before I ever go out into the world. I know exactly what people are going to say. I don't know. Maybe Bruce has had more experience.
I had some bad responses, but they're remember, we're supposed to be of maximum service, so you respect that individual and you back away, and you don't want to ruin an opportunity later down the line to make that amends. So you just don't want to go any farther with it.
Yeah.
Because you're not there to you're there to not to cause more trouble. It's
Right.
just not sweeping off your side of the street, and if you've done your best and you've actually done that, then you walk away. And if you're not, you can leave the situation and not feel like you've caused something that they have to work on that
Right.
and their attitude towards things. So
Sure.
that's the way I deal with that.
Maybe saying, if you ever want to talk about this, I'm here. I'm
Yeah.
I'm
That's
always
good.
willing to talk
Sure.
about it when you're ready.
Yeah, yeah. We're almost out of time. I want to bring up one thing really quickly, and then I want to get some closing thoughts from both of you. But so if I ripped off my drug dealer, should I go pay him back?
Wow.
Maybe we'll just leave that out there in the universe and let people chew on that one. What do you guys think? Bruce, go ahead. I mean, you're dying to say something. I know you are.
Well, there's two ways to look at it. That's why you have a sponsor, and that's why you talk about these things.
Yep.
And is it bothering you? Is it spiritually? What about if you've hurt somebody? Are you supposed to make amends? Are you supposed to clean up your side of the street?
You mean you physically hurt them? Beat the living daylights out of them? Do you go to their house and knock on their door?
Sure. That used to be my gig. That's what I did. I robbed people that had drugs.
Yeah.
Oh, so you really have wrestled with what Monty's suggesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And perhaps if you went back to them, particularly if they were still actively dealing, the injuring them or others may be them. You may get into a tussle and then somebody in their house gets hurt or
Again,
killed.
we know the circumstances, and there's each case is different. And what if it was somebody that was a friend of yours and you set him up?
Ooh, and they didn't. Ooh.
And you had this thing bothering you, and it was spiritually was festering inside of you, and you see. So you need a sponsor,
Yeah.
and somebody to talk to you, and some of the simple things that you've said today on the station. So these are things that we have to think about. We're not cookie cut,
Right.
individuals, and your situation is going to be different than mine, but you know it. And if you have a good sponsor, and that sponsor doesn't tell you what to do, but guides you into what the proper response for you is, and then you take it to the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Closing thoughts. Melissa?
I love how the Bible does, or the Bible too, but the Big Book has that, all this practical advice. I mean, they actually, Bill and the guys, they actually put in their practical suggestions of how we could carry this out for situations that are going to be pretty common to most alcoholics and recovering people. And I love that. And in the Bible too, but it doesn't tell us everything. If there was, there would have to be a whole nother book at least that would say, what about the drug dealers? What about physical harm? What about this? What about that? I mean, I guess they could have put something like that together, and maybe alcoholics and addicts have asked for that throughout the years. But I love that. I love that it's not all answered, and you kind of have to go back to your sponsor, to your God, most of all, and you have to just be,
Right.
It says to thine own self be true on our coin, and when we're doing that, we have to rely on God to do that, and so I love this program, I do.
Bruce?
Yeah,
Very well said, by the way. Very well said.
Yeah, I think the backside of 4 is the big thing to remember, and I love that, the way it just, the book runs all together, and that what I'm really doing here is trying to take a look at my attitude and my conduct with other human beings, and can I straighten that out? And I do not want to go out and make an amends just to have my attitude, my conduct be the same. are to hurt more people.
Right, because amends means amendment. It means to change something.
Mm-hmm.
We made an amendment to this law. We made an amendment to these guidelines. We made an amendment to the bylaws. Whatever it is, we've either attached something to it, or we've removed something from it. But whatever we've done, we've changed the whole picture.
We've permanently changed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to make sure I do that right.
Yeah. Right on. Melissa, did you have a good time?
I did. And I learned something, and I have some things in my brain, and good thing I'm meeting with my sponsor tomorrow night.
Well, now you can now you can just say, you know what, I'm part of Take 12 Radio right now, and I got to tell you, I probably know more than you. No, you don't want to do that. Don't do that.
Can I use that in every conversation with everyone in recovery?
Sure, just be prepared to make amends.
Yeah, we're just teasing.
All right, my friends, remember our email address is take12radio@comcast.net. If you're listening on your smart device, our web address is take12radio.com. If you're listening on the Graceful Living Network on an AM/FM station in your area, please visit our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's 3 ways to listen to the shows: MP3 download, play button, and the YouTube version as well. So, until our next broadcast, this is the Monty Man along with Bruce H. and Melissa T. And we're wishing God's perfect serenity for you.
This has been a broadcast of Take 12 Recovery Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Now, here, little Rudolph, come to Santa.